My beloved brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when everything seems uncertain, when doors that once opened easily now stay closed, when people who once walked with you suddenly walk away, when plans you made with confidence begin to crumble before your eyes. And in those moments you may ask, Lord, what is happening to me? But I tell you today, God is not punishing you. He is rearranging your life for a greater purpose. When God begins to rearrange your life, the first thing you will often experience is disruption. Things that once made sense begin to shift. Opportunities that seemed secure suddenly disappear. People you depended on may walk away without explanation. And in that moment, it's easy to think you've been delayed or forgotten. But divine disruptions are not delays. They are directions. God is not withholding your blessing. He is redirecting your steps towards something better aligned with your purpose. Sometimes He must close one door so that you will notice the new one He is opening. Many of us pray for guidance, yet when God answers that prayer through a change we didn't expect, we call it a problem instead of His plan. But when you understand that disruption is a language of destiny, you begin to see every interruption as an invitation from heaven. Moses' life changed when he was disrupted from the luxury of Pharaoh's palace and sent to the quiet wilderness. It was there that God prepared him to lead a nation. The same is true for you. The chaos you feel might be God's classroom, teaching you lessons that comfort could never teach. When your routine is broken, God is breaking limitations. When your comfort zone is shaken, God is awakening your potential. Every divine disruption carries a message. You cannot stay here. God uses discomfort to move you from where you are to where you are meant to be. Sometimes the direction God takes you will not look like progress. You may feel like you're moving backward, but in reality, He's positioning you forward in a different dimension. Think of how Joseph went from the pit to Potiphar's house to the prison, all before reaching the palace. Each seeming setback was actually a stepping stone. God's rearrangement rarely looks logical at first, because His perspective is eternal. What feels like loss is often the pruning before promotion. The ground must be disturbed before the seed can grow. Likewise, your spirit must be stirred before your destiny can unfold. If your life feels like it's being disrupted right now, don't despair. You are not being delayed, you are being directed. God is moving you from what is familiar to what is fruitful, from comfort to calling, from routine to revelation. When God begins to remove certain things or people from your life, it can feel painful and confusing. You might wonder why He allowed something precious to be taken away, or why a relationship that once brought you joy suddenly fades into silence. But in God's divine order, removal is never random. When He removes, He always intends to replace. Every loss that feels like it's breaking you is actually making space for something greater to be birthed in your life. God cannot fill what is already full. He must empty you of the unnecessary so He can pour in what is essential for your destiny. Abraham could not see the full blessing of God until he was willing to separate from Lot. It was after that separation that God said, "Lift up your eyes and see." In the same way, there are connections and situations that once served your journey, but can no longer sustain your growth. God, in His mercy, detaches you from what would limit you, so He can attach you to what will lift you. Sometimes he removes the wrong voices so you can hear his voice clearly. Sometimes he closes familiar doors so that you will walk through divine ones. His replacements are always greater than your removals. But faith is required to see that while you are still standing in the empty space. When God removes, he's not punishing you. He's pruning you. A gardener doesn't cut branches to destroy a tree, but to make it bear more fruit. That's what God is doing in you. The pain of pruning is proof of potential. Every tear you've cried over what left is watering the soil for what's about to come. You may not recognize it now, but what God takes away is never meant to leave you empty. It's meant to prepare you for overflow. Many people miss the blessing because they cling to what God has already released. You cannot carry yesterday's attachments into tomorrow's assignment. Trust that God sees what you cannot. What you lost was temporary, but what he is bringing is eternal. He removes so that he can replace weakness with strength, fear with faith, and scarcity with abundance. When God begins to rearrange your life, it is not only to change your surroundings, but to prepare your spirit for a greater level of responsibility. He never promotes without preparation, and he never entrusts more to someone who is not yet ready to carry it. The process of rearrangement is often the proving ground for the next season of your calling. God uses challenges, transitions, and uncomfortable shifts to develop the character required for the blessings you've been praying for. Many want the promotion, but few understand the process. Before God elevates you, he strengthens your foundation so that what he builds in you can stand firm when the storms come. Look at the story of David. Before he became a king, he was first a shepherd, caring for sheep in hidden places. Those quiet years were not wasted. They were preparation. God was training his hands for battle and his heart for leadership. The same God who called David from the field is calling you from your current place of preparation. The responsibilities he is preparing you for require endurance, wisdom, and humility that can only be formed through time and testing. Every trial that seems to delay your progress is actually building your spiritual muscles to sustain the weight of greater purpose. Sometimes God will rearrange your priorities to make room for growth. He will shift your focus from what is comfortable to what is eternal. He will teach you to depend less on people and more on his presence. What feels like a breaking season is often a building season in disguise. God is enlarging your capacity to carry his vision, to lead with compassion, and to serve with strength. He knows that before he can give you the influence you desire, he must first mold your character to match your calling. This is why some opportunities may not come when you expect them. God withholds certain blessings not to deny you, but to prepare you. He's shaping your mindset, refining your motives, and equipping your heart for a higher assignment. The rearrangement you're experiencing is divine conditioning, a training ground where purpose is purified and faith is fortified. Trusting the process is one of the hardest lessons in the journey of faith, because God often works in ways we cannot see. When life feels uncertain, our natural tendency is to question, to worry, or to take control. But when God is rearranging your life, control must give way to confidence that his plan is still working even when the evidence says otherwise. Trust does not mean understanding everything. It means believing that everything is under his control. God does not waste pain, confusion, or delay. Every step, even the ones that seem to lead nowhere, is divinely ordered to bring you closer to your destiny. There are times when God will let you walk through seasons of silence, not because He has left you, but because He is teaching you to rely on His presence, not His explanations. In those quiet moments, He builds endurance in your spirit and faith in your heart. The absence of answers becomes the soil where true trust is planted. When you stop demanding clarity and start walking by faith, you align yourself with the rhythm of God's purpose. His timing is perfect, even when it feels late. His methods are mysterious, but His motives are always love. Think of how the Israelites wandered in the wilderness. What seemed like wasted years were actually years of preparation. God was training them to depend on Him daily, to trust Him for manna, for water, and for direction. Every detour was divine direction. Likewise, when your life seems to be taking unexpected turns, trust that God is guiding you through them for a reason. The detour may feel longer, but it leads to destiny. You may not see what He is doing behind the scenes, but heaven is never inactive. God is orchestrating people, opportunities, and circumstances to align with the promise He has spoken over your life. Trusting the process means surrendering your timeline to His wisdom. It means believing that even delays are divine tools in His hands. When you don't see the progress you expected, remember that growth often happens underground before it appears above. God is developing your roots before revealing your fruit. He is strengthening your faith so that when the blessing comes, you can carry it with grace and gratitude. My friends, if your life feels uncertain right now, if it seems like everything familiar is shifting beneath your feet, remember this: God has not forgotten you. The rearrangement you are facing is not a sign of abandonment. It is evidence of divine attention. He is moving pieces you cannot see, aligning moments you do not yet understand, and preparing blessings you are not ready to carry just yet. What feels like chaos is often the canvas on which God paints His greatest masterpieces. Do not be afraid of what is changing. Embrace it. Thank God even for the closed doors, for they are making way for greater openings. When you walk by faith and not by sight, you give God permission to finish what He started in you. You may not understand the route, but you can trust the destination. You are being positioned for purpose, refined for responsibility, and strengthened for significance. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and keep walking. The same God who began this rearrangement will complete it in glory. Your pain will turn into purpose, your confusion into clarity, and your waiting into witnessing. You are not losing. God is aligning. The breakthrough you have been praying for is already on its way, and when it arrives, you will look back and realize that every shift, every silence, and every storm was part of God's perfect plan to bring you into His greater purpose.